Hi, this is Ed Cohen, broadcasting today from San Diego, California. This is Global TV Talk Show. This is a very special occasion. It's a tribute to Nancy Carter from the Darden Restaurant Corporation. She's retiring after 48 years. Relocation has been her life, and I'm really honored to be able to host this. We have a wonderful cast of characters to support Nancy Carter. And let's go first to Diane Ayers, porchlightrental.com. So Diane, you're in Canton. How long have you known Nancy Carter?
About 15 years. And I just want to correct you that I'm in Akron, Ohio. Canton is south of us, but I like to give Akron some credit because it is the home of LeBron James and Porchlight Rental and Destination Services. So I did just want to clarify that. And I want to say thank you to Ed for doing this with us, because the group of boxes here that you see on the screen all came together because you have this type of platform. And I know there are a number of people out there putting on platforms like this and programming like this. But what I like about what you're doing is that you really don't have any vested interest in a certain product, a certain service to the relocation industry. You're really just bringing people together in a format that allows us to appreciate Nancy today in this case, or learn from one another in other platforms. So I thought you were the perfect choice for our tribute to Nancy today. And so thank you for reinventing yourself, as many of us have had to during this time.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Diane, for your support. Absolutely. All right, let's go to Chris Chalk. Hello, Chris. Welcome. You got to unmute.
Not my first Zoom call, Ed. How you doing today?
Yeah, just cool. And thanks very much. So what kind of drink do you have in your hand today?
So just, it's not going to work. I'll get the products out later, but for right now, just coffee.
Okay. Well, as I said before, I love the zero. Okay, so Chris, how long have you known Nancy Carter?
It seems like my entire adult life. I think Nancy's one of the first people I met in mobility. So probably in the neighborhood of like 18-ish years, 18 to 20 possibly. I don't know. It's been a while.
And what company were you with at that first encounter?
We don't have time to go through all the companies I've worked for, Ed. Sorry. There's no telling.
All right. Well,
but I'm with Coca-Cola now. So.
Yeah, well, that's all that counts, and enjoy. Yeah, so the involvement, Nancy, with SRRC, that's really been your love affair, right?
Yeah, I was one of the founding members, and we grew it from a very small organization to a very large organization. I was on the board several times, and Faye can attest to that because she and I were on the board pretty much the same time. It's a great organization, great people. I've learned a lot, and as a matter of fact, I found notes from a meeting from 2009 just the other day when I was cleaning out my desk about a pandemic, how to handle crisis. And I was just like, in 2009, they were already doing that. And good notes I took. Remember that?
Hi, Faye Chadwick. Where do we find you today? Where are you?
I am at home in Davenport, Florida, just west of Disney World. So I've been retired for 6 years now.
Yeah, well, great. Well, I remember when you spoke at one of our meetings. I think it was Orlando, but it could have been Fort Lauderdale. I don't remember now.
Well, it's been interesting with Nancy and SRRC. As she said, she was one of the founding members. And I got to thinking of how long I've known her and how long we've worked together. And 30 years came up, and I'm like, that's impossible. We're both only 45.
Oh, that's funny. So, Nancy, I want to, quickly ask you to jump back into history. This is your life, So back when you first started at General Mills, which became Darden, what was your job? You were a clerk?
I went to school in the morning and I went to work in the afternoon, and I was filing personnel type files. Then when I graduated from high school, I went full-time as a records keeper. That was in 1972, 73. And then in 1979, one of my coworkers was going out on maternity leave, and they needed some help in the relocation area. And I kind of begged for the job to learn it, which was a stretch for me because I was really shy, but I took the job and learned it, and that person did not come back from maternity leave, and I got to stay in the position, and I've enjoyed it ever since.
So back then, it was like down the hall and over there in the corner, and you dealt with moving vans or realtors. I mean, how did you handle all that way back then?
Well, we mostly did it by phone back then to set up everything, and pretty much all I did back then was van line, and at that time it was just Red Lobster. None of the other brands were there yet, and we would call the moving company or the U-Haul people and set it up over the phone. I want to say way back in the 80s, we were doing 1,000 moves with just one brand back then because they were growing so fast.
That's amazing.
Not so many. Yeah, not so
Right.
many today.
So that was the franchise, Red Lobster. So that means you were moving managers or assistant managers or cooks?
Managers, yes. And then people that would come into the corporate office.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Okay, Jewel Taylor. Now you're inheriting all this, right? So
Yeah. Hey, Nancy. So good to see you.
Hi.
yeah,
I don't see you, but nice to hear you.
Yeah. Oh, you don't see me? I'm not on?
well, yeah,
I'm
we
not
see
on
you.
camera?
Oh,
Oh.
well, you know what? It might be just, I only see a few people, so.
Oh, because I'm not on the panel. But yeah, when you said Red Lobster, I got super excited. So you didn't get a chance to see me do my little rah-rah. But yeah, I don't think there's a single manager who moved at Red Lobster prior to our separating in 2014 who doesn't know Nancy. If you don't know Nancy, it's because you did not relocate at any point. In fact, Nancy moved me. My 3 children, my husband and I moved here from Dallas 9 years ago. And it's really interesting, you know, owning relocation too. You understand the importance of it because the relocation person is really the first person that your new employee works with. You know, everyone else is just, you know, giving them a job offer, et cetera. But this is the person who really establishes the brand for you. And in her case, represented Darden for me. And she did a fabulous job. We didn't have Skype or Zoom, so I never saw her face, only heard her voice back then. But she was fabulous, and I just have such fabulous memories of her. You talked about being in the gym. Every time I was in the gym, she was in the gym. So it is really true, and I guess that's why she can say she's 40, even though she started in 1972. And people actually believe it. But yeah, and she also, you know, when we separated from Darden in 2014, I had someone who I hired pretty much right out of college. And I think she was 23 years old. So she actually had never known anybody who'd relocated. She was so young, she'd never relocated. And Nancy took her under her wing, Amina Khan. And Amina isn't Amina on the board at the SRRC now? Or I know she's involved.
Yeah.
So Nancy was a fabulous mentor for Amina, and just awesome person. Thank you, Nancy.
So back then, as we zoom back then, just for a minute, there was a sound of typewriters and fax machines ringing, right, with that floppy, ugly paper, right? Oh,
Yeah.
was that before then? Wow, I don't remember. I don't.
Yeah.
So,
I remember not having a computer, so yeah.
right, okay. So, Ann, Ann Burkhardt, how do you recall your early days knowing Nancy?
Well, I moved to Florida in August of 1996, and in September of 1996, I went to my first SRC meeting, and that's where I met Nancy. And she's the sweetest, most caring person, and 24 years later, here we are. We've been working together for probably at least 22 of the 24 years, and she's been wonderful. Besides becoming a great friend, she was always great to work with too. And I say was because I retired in February of this year, but she's always great to work with. And she was able to juggle her company, her vendors, and her transferees so well, and have everybody feel that they were totally taken care of. And you know, she dealt with integrity. She dealt with honesty. And it was so easy to work with her because she always had the answer. You could call her and explain what was happening, and she'd say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And, everything would be taken care of. And she was just great. We attended a lot of regional meetings, a lot of Atlas forums, a lot of lunches, a lot of dinners. And throughout the years, she's just been a great friend. And I can truly say, I am so much better for knowing you, Nancy. And I just thank you for being you. It's just been great working with you. And 24 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris Chuck, back to when you were with that German manufacturing company. How much action did you have? In other words, how much involvement did you have with Nancy and SRRC?
So I think it was when I was with Siemens, because I've only been with Coke for a year, but Nancy, the sort of, I've already peaked. The highlight of my career, and I've said this more than one time, and I think I even said it to you, was getting to be on a corporate panel sitting next to you at SRRC, because I've been a part of that organization going back. I don't know, it all gets kind of fuzzy, but I think around probably 18-ish years. And so you were just always a fixture there at SRC. And I don't mean like the wallpaper or anything, but like a key important part of SRC, like a pillar, not a fixture. And just always, walked away from every conversation I ever had with you, just a little bit better for it. And so having the opportunity to sit on a panel with you at SRC in Florida was just, I think I maybe said it during the panel, I looked around at you guys, I was like, I finally arrived, like this is my career goal, or one of my career goals. So I just want to say thank you for always being patient, especially with me, and always taking the time to help other people. So something I've always really appreciated about you.
Okay, let's go to Carrie, who's the current president of SRRC. Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, Nancy.
Hey.
So I met Nancy in 2004, and she was probably the first person that was introduced to me at SRC by Pat Dolan. And so I've been going to SRC ever since, but I will say that the reason I continued going to SRC, Nancy was a big reason behind that, just because she was very welcoming, open. Every time I ever saw her at any conference, she always went out of her way to say hello and make me feel welcome. So after being on being a member of SRC since 2004, I've been on the board for 4 years, and I'm the current president this year. And I think a lot of that, it's been such an awesome experience, and most of that is due to Nancy and just just always being there. And I do believe that I may have coordinated the corporate panel that Chris and Nancy were on, because I know that I probably did my welcome with Nancy. I think I asked her to participate on some type of panel at least like 3 times in the last few years. So I'm just really excited for your retirement. I just think you're just an amazing person and just awesome. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So Nancy, you're not really going to retire, are you?
Oh, I think I am. 48 years, I think I deserve it. Don't you think so?
No, but what are you going to do?
I think
You're just not going to sit
You need
around.
to go to an even 50. Why can't you wait for an even 50, Nancy?
I don't think this nice little offer retirement package would be up for by then. We have one
Well-
person who decided to stick it out for 50. He's about 6 months behind me. So
Wow.
plans, well, definitely to go visit friends and do a little bit of travel, some motorcycling. Something that came up just this last week from my boyfriend. He said, let's take cooking classes. I'm excited about that. So that's something on the agenda. So I don't know. I plan to sleep in and not go to the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning. How about that?
Wow, that's cool. Okay, now let's zero in on your day's involvement with ERC. Peggy, join us on this, please. And why don't you take the stage here? Oh,
Thing is can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So first off, it's great to see everybody, even though we're all in shadows or in whatever the environment is. So I can tell you that I honestly and really do miss being out in the field to see everybody. But Faye, it's lovely to see you as well.
Thank you.
And Tila, of course, and Chris, but everybody. But so it's kind of funny, and because I was reflecting on when I first met Nancy, and it was when I was on the corporate side, and we had this experience of serving on Worldwide ERC's board together, gosh, about 15 or so years ago. And first off, Nancy, you don't age a darn bit. So I don't know. I mean, I hope that I look just as elegant as you do when I get my little retirement opportunity as well. But so yeah, that's how we came to know each other. I was thrown into sort of being on Worldwide, not thrown, but offered the opportunity to be in there. We were thrown in together. I think there was some team building stuff that we did. And I do remember one of the ice breaking things where it's like, tell us something that you do that whatever. And when you told me you rode a motorcycle and you came on and you had on the leathers and all, I was like, whoa, you know, I knew you were a force to be reckoned with. So that's my, that was my introduction to Nancy. And then selfishly, I'll tell you, Nancy, I'm a huge fan of Seasons 52.
Yay.
And I just wish there were more of them out on the West Coast because there is none. But I got to know the manager when I was in DC at the Tyson's Corner one all the time because I was in there 3 or 4 days a week. It was perfect. It was great food. So anyway, yes, so my treat with Nancy has been our opportunity to serve together and then watch you grow and flourish. And then coming back down to SRRC when I was in my Worldwide ERC role. So Nancy's a legend, and I look forward to seeing your travels from the road.
Oh, cool. That's really great. All right, let's go to Tila.
Hi, everyone. Nancy, it's so good to see you. And this news was bittersweet. I know we've been talking about it for a long time, and I'm excited for you personally, but selfishly, we're going to miss having you to work with. Kind of going back to Nancy's early days when she was calling in and working over the phone before fax machines. I was here at Sudeth, and I was the one taking orders on the other end back in the Red Lobster days. So I've really known Nancy for decades and have had the pleasure of getting to know her even more in the last several years as I shifted into a corporate sponsor role supporting Darden. You know, so much comes to mind when you think of Nancy, and I will say from a supplier standpoint, Nancy always made us a better supplier because if you called Nancy, she was going to shoot straight from the hip, and she didn't mean to hurt your feelings, but she'd tell you straight up how she felt, and it really allowed you to kind of counter whatever was going wrong, and then you remembered you never wanted it to happen again because you didn't want Nancy mad at you. So thank you for that. You really, truly have made us a better supplier, and I really appreciate that. You've made our employees better just in who they are. The one thing Nancy and I, actually two things Nancy and I have in common. One, we both like to ride on the back of motorcycles. So
Right.
we've got that in common. And then the other thing is shoes. And Nancy and I actually wear the same shoe size. So I just want to say, as you enter retirement, if you need to ditch some of those dress shoes or work shoes, you know where I'm at. I'll gladly take them on. And just a funny story, we had Nancy at one of our client summits, and just to kind of show her zest for life and fun, I remember us like having dinner and then ultimately ending up on the dance floor, and all of a sudden we see lights flashing everywhere, and it's Nancy with her light up shoes. She lit up the night, danced the night away, and we had a blast actually watching Nancy just kind of do her thing on the dance floor. So keep dancing, Nancy. I wish you the absolute best in retirement, and I love you.
Thank you.
Okay, Shannon Greeley.
Hi, hey Nance.
Hey.
So I have known Nancy since '04, so I'm right there with like Carrie. I guess we met at the same time, probably at the same event. So I had first met Nancy at a actually work event where I was working at the time to do an introduction because the person that had my role prior was leaving. So I got to meet Faye and Nancy and everybody. And so that was kind of a warm introduction, and she just completely welcomed me because I was brand new to the relocation industry from car rental. So she just welcomed me. And then I think just shortly thereafter, SRC became part of my life. So Nancy was very welcoming because you walk in and you're like a deer in headlights. You're like, whoa, because you built such a huge membership over the years. And so it was just so much fun. And it just parlayed into girls' night out. So I think we were at SRC with Faye and Nancy, and I believe we carpooled down there. And so when we carpooled, we had lunch at the Cheesecake Factory. So I do remember this like it was yesterday. And we had and we were with some others, and we're like, let's see each other more often because we all just got along and just had this kinship and friendship. And so it kind of turned into a monthly girls' night out event. Of course, we always went to a garden concept. So Olive Garden was it. So we'd always have a special room because sometimes there was up to like 8, 10 of us. Quite a few had gathered, and we would just get together and just talk a little relo, but I think it was more about me and my online dating experiences, which always brought joy and laughter. And we had Faye, who became a grandma. So we had your grandma shower. So we had that. We had retirement parties and going away parties. So we've just developed a beautiful friendship, Nancy, and I'm so grateful. And it's just been a pleasure working with you on the vendor side, but the friend side, I can't wait to see your adventures and be part of a few of them, including Bike Week. Wink, wink.
Maybe.
Boy, that's interesting. Yeah. So does everyone know Mel Smith?
Yeah.
Oh, gotta speak.
Should I speak?
Yeah, please.
This is a small world, I'll tell you. So just briefly, I want to talk about Nancy first and say that, I did not work directly with her as a partner, but the company that I worked for was a vendor to Darden Restaurants. And she was always really kind and very gracious to me, which I remember. And some of the most memorable SRRCs that I went to, I think I was at 2 during the time in Orlando, were organized, planned by Nancy and Faye, who I have not seen or spoken to in years. Carrie, Pat Dolan was my last GM before I left Orlando. And I had to look up Shannon because I was like, this woman's name is familiar to me. When I came back to the States from Germany, the first company I worked for, I went through the enterprise rental car training program. And that's how I remember Shannon. So there's all these connections, but I want to tell you that when I left Orlando and moved up to the DC area where I am right now, because of the impact that the SRRC had on my career and how great the meetings were, I became the program chair for the GWERC, and I had that term for a couple of years. So it was really in part greatly inspired by the positive SRRC events that I attended. And yeah, And also, it's good to see some people like Peggy who I haven't seen in a while as well. So it's a nice reunion. And I had to jump on to help celebrate because, like everyone else has said, it's unbelievable looking at Nancy to believe that she's been working anywhere for that long. That was always in everybody's minds. Like, what? That is crazy. Darden is in trouble. They're hiring children, you know. And so it's great to just to be here and to celebrate Nancy's career and to see familiar faces of people who really treated me well throughout the length of my career. And it's been about, I think we met 22 years ago. So it was about 1998 or something like that before I had this white hair and a beard. So that's it.
That's great. Well, thanks, Mel. All right, let's go to Chad.
Good morning, everybody. Hello, Nancy.
Hi.
I think I am the person on this group that has known Nancy for the shortest period of time. I will say, and Peggy, you mentioned it, that Nancy has been a legend in our industry. I've known of her for about 20 years, and I've been working with her for about 6 months now. So all that time of wanting to finally work with Darden and Nancy, and now it's been a 6-month stint. So just kind of a testament to the person you are. Just in our few short meetings and our couple of dinners, I just got to know so much about you and your love for biking and your love for cats and exercising and food and shoes and all that fun stuff. So just really enjoyed the time we've met, and working with you for the short time, especially during COVID, kind of unique, and wish you all the best in the future. And thanks, Ann, for retiring so I could get in and get to know you a little bit. So I appreciate that. So.
All right, let's go back to Chris Chalk. So tell us about some of the pedicab rides you and Nancy took.
That's the funny thing. I was going to have to ask you, Nancy, to help me out with some of the details. But I know that it happened more than one time. I think the first one was in San Diego, actually, at ERC. And I don't know exactly, well, I know exactly how or why. We didn't want to walk back from the bar to the hotel. And I think that was the fastest way. But you tell me if I'm remembering this wrong, because it seems like I made it up when I say it out loud. You and me and possibly Jan Perrin from Ryder got in a pedicab and then raced Jelaine Joachim's son, Gillen, and somebody else in his back to the hotel. And I might be confusing two different pedicab rides because we've done it more than once. And we told our driver if he could beat the other guy, we were going to tip him like an extra $20. And we had bet them $20 that we get back first. And there was more weight in our side of the pedicab. Like there's no, you know, it's because of Jan.
It was a fun ride.
The guy he was going like full speed at a red light. And that's when we all started to get a little bit nervous. But then the light turned green at the last second, we won. And that was, I think, the first of our pedicab adventures. So, but more importantly, that just kind of sums up life with Nancy. Anytime I got to spend time with you outside of, well, it was never really inside of work, but I always had so much fun, and you made going to different conferences just so much more enjoyable, and I will miss that.
Great. Let's go to Debbie. Hello.
Hey, Nancy.
Oh, hey.
It's been a while. I'm with Unirisk. I've worked with Nancy, gosh, almost 20 years now as the account liaison for their claims programs. When people relocate and had claim issues, I was the one she came to make sure they got fixed. And she kept me on my toes. She's always kept me on my toes. I've enjoyed coming up and having lunch with you. I would come up and do our yearly reviews, have lunch with her. And I'm going to say I'm going to really miss you, Nancy. I really am.
No, that's nice. Great. And Minneapolis. Hello, Minneapolis. Yeah, I got to turn your,
I find my button there.
Yeah.
Hi, Nancy. It's good to see you. It's good to see several of you that I haven't seen in a while. It's nice to see those of you who I don't know. My name is Kevin Qualiano. I'm the general manager at Alexander's in Minneapolis. And we've had the privilege of working with Darden for several years. And I personally worked with Nancy for 6 or 7 years. And it's just been a little slice of heaven. And I'm going to miss you so much. Not just from a business standpoint, but from a personal standpoint. Grown, to get to know each other over the last several years, and I think we'd all agree that if we could just put a card, kind of in her brain and pull out all that data that's in there and what she knows, we'd be unstoppable. But unfortunately, you're going to take all that with you. And I think every single one of us on here are going to miss you very much. So.
Okay, Nancy, let me ask you, I don't mean to get heavy here at all, but think back, what's the greatest accomplishment? There's probably more than one. Let's say the top 2 or 3 greatest accomplishments in your view of working at Darden.
Well, that's a tough one. Let's see. I've outlasted a lot of layoffs. The opportunity to be able to participate in things like ERC and SRC, the leadership that I had at those times allowed me to participate, and being on the boards and earning my CRP and then my SCRP, and just being around so many people from all over the world was just an experience that you could never imagine. When I think about people I was on the board with, people from England, people from Hong Kong, I mean, when you have that opportunity ever to meet those kind of people, that was just a great experience, and I feel like I've made lifetime friends.
So I also, my first ERC experience was in 1979, and I mean, since then, that's a long time ago for sure, but since then I've had a life as a result of being involved with ERC. And Peggy, your leadership in the past was really like a bridge into the new now, and your energy and your Pacific Northwest perspective on things was like not cold water, but an inspiration. Let's call it Prosecco on ERC to jazz it up and make it real. And so I know what you're talking about, Nancy. So what do you think, this is not rehearsed, obviously. So Nancy, what do you think of all the technology versus human touch, human connection? I know your background has been human touch forever. That's why everybody likes you and respects what you've been doing. And obviously you've won the stakeholder battles internally to make relocation as important as it is to the Darden Corporation. So what can you give us as parting words, if you will, about the future of technology, human touch?
Well, this is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I think that relocation still needs to have a personal touch. It's a very stressful time for people moving, and you don't know everything that's going on in their life during that move. There could be other circumstances that are hard for them to deal with, and having a personal touch and having that connection with them, I think is really important. Technology is great, but I still think that you're going to need that personal touch.
So with the work from home thing, that's probably never going to go away now, but there's still going to be moving people, right?
Yes, actually, we did slow down probably during the peak months when I was working at home, but we never stopped moving people, but we're moving quite a few people now.
Yeah,
So,
it's still the manager level?
Manager level. We're still opening restaurants, a little bit slower, but yes, we're still busy.
Well, that's really good to hear, frankly. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, back to you, Chris. Your involvement with Coke, is that different from your involvement with Siemens?
No, and I have to say, Nancy, but first and foremost, I mean, you inspire people that human touch, no matter how much technology we have, that's never going to go away. I love hearing the stories about how y'all used to do stuff with fax machines and telephones. But I think technology, the purpose for it is to allow us to spend less time on the administrative stuff and more time on the connecting with people. Because that's one thing that, some of the stories you've shared over the years and now some of the stuff I've experienced, relocating employees, they are super stressed out frequently, and some of them are just crazy. So my work at Coca-Cola is very, very similar to what I was doing at Siemens Corporation, in that responsible for primarily long-term assignments for expats. At Siemens, it was for everything into and out of the Americas. For Coca-Cola, it's global, and I have a team that sit around the world. So whereas at Siemens, everybody was sitting with me in Orlando, at Coca-Cola, COVID and everybody working from home, it really didn't change the way my team worked at all, because they all sat in different time zones and all over the place. So we were actually sharing our best practices for having meetings and using Teams and different resources with the rest of the organization. So that part has not changed.
All right, thank you. So we have about 12 minutes left. Diane Ayers, you have a unique perspective. You've been around a long time too, specialty winner of awards from whether it's Triple or other groups, all about customer service. So relate now back to your time servicing Darden and the customer service. Was Nancy a taskmaster, or was she easy to work with?
Well, since this is being recorded, I'll be nice. I'm kidding, Nancy. I first got to know Nancy through an ERC event, and it sounds like most of us did, which is so interesting. And the technology versus human touch. I mean, look at how all of us know each other really from primarily human touch, those human connections that we made at the different events that we attended, and how important ERC and the varying regional organizations have been. But that's how I first met Nancy. I actually was helping with a panel that she was leading and moderating, and I was able to connect with her there and made an impression on her that she felt that I was capable of helping in other areas, and we specifically work with renters. And so Darden has a number of renters, and what I most remember is, first of all, being honored to work with you directly to serve them. Secondly, how available you always were when we had questions or meetings that we'd like to have, like we talked about annual reviews and so forth. Some clients can make that more challenging than others. You took it seriously, you were always available, and you always included others. You always made sure others who we touched in your organization were included at the table. But what I most remember of our relationship, and as I talked with all of the employees here at Porchlight who work with your transferees, you always made us feel like heroes. We felt really appreciated, and we felt like we made a difference in the lives of the people we were touching. And we do feel that in our business, but working with Darden and just your commentary, just the appreciation that we always felt, that's really what stood out to everyone in the organization. So thank you for that, because we all do work hard in what we do, and it feels good to be appreciated in life. And we did feel that from you and Darden. And I also just wanted to point out, as a business owner, I would be so happy and proud if my employees represented Porchlight the way you represented Darden. For 48 years, you are in that organization, and for all the time that all of us have known you, I bet you've never said one negative thing about your organization. Everything out of your mouth has been how impressed you are with the company, how proud you were to work there, how much a part of the family you were there. And I just think that is such an awesome attribute and characteristic that you bring to your profession, to this Zoom call. I see heads nodding. That's what you have been about. And people want to associate with people like that. And I just think it's a reflection of how you live your life. And it's just a wonderful thing that you bring to the world and to the organization, to the community that we have here. So thank you for that. Thank you for touching all of our lives in such a meaningful way. Just doing your work each day is what you're thinking, but obviously you made a difference with everybody here.
So let's have a round of applause to Diane Ayers for coordinating this thing.
And
Okay.
Tila, because Tila knew everybody and was able to connect us all together. So thank you, Tila.
Okay, Faye Chadwick, you obviously had the corporate experience as a colleague with Nancy. So why don't you relate back to one of those thoughts?
Well, Nancy and I would always bounce everything off of each other. We basically used the same vendors and had the same attitude. But one thing I can say about Nancy, and you've heard it said many times, is how kind she is, how much empathy and sympathy she had for everyone. And it didn't just happen with the corporate clients. It happened with the vendors. It happened with everything. I've known Nancy for, as I said, for 30 years plus. And knowing the person that she is, there is no one in this world that I'd rather be friends with. She has kindness for everyone. And when it would come to relocatees, if we were both just about to scream our heads off, we would call each other and say, talk me down off of this ledge. And it was like, we talked off of several ledges too. And quite times we were ready to jump. One thing that I know about Nancy though, is I have never, ever heard her say an unkind word about anyone. And to reflect on the personal person, she was one of the best daughters I have ever known. She was there for her father, her family. She has always been there reaching out with a helping hand to anyone who needed it. And to say that Nancy has been in my life has been one of my biggest rewards, to have her as a friend all of these years. And I would like to say, quit wiping your eyes, it's all true. She has been more than a friend, she's like a sister. And I am so thrilled that she's retiring, because now she'll have time to go to lunch with me. And we can get in some of the trouble that we always did at ERC that nobody ever knew about, because we both smiled and you never knew what we were up to. And my partner in crime is such a wonderful lady, and I'm so glad that the world knows that. God bless you, and so happy retirement, friend.
Bless you.
Okay, let's look to the future and your perspective, Nancy. Peggy, if I can ask you where to look in your crystal ball and lead us a little bit here about the future of ERC or the industry. Obviously, we're going to all experience change coming up for the next 6 months or so, maybe longer. But what do you see? We can just go around the picture here and everyone can comment. So Peggy, would you mind being first? And once again, this is not rehearsed and this is not supposed to be a gotcha. This is about sharing ideas.
Yeah, so you know what, happy to sort of offer some things here. I can't speak on behalf of Worldwide ERC because I haven't been engaged, right? But moreover, in terms of the industry, I think like so many people have even commented throughout their commentary here for Nancy, is that, you know, it is an interesting time of transition. I do feel as though we will be permanently moved, no pun intended there, but into a more embraced, diverse, distributed workforce. I don't believe it will stay 100% remote. I don't think it's going to be 100% back in the office. I do think there's going to be a window within the middle of this where you have some pods that do some elements. And I'll leave on this kind of closing, well, two closing comments. Number one, I think, Nancy, what makes you so great in everything that you've done and the legacy and the leadership you leave behind is because you have seen many transitions of whatever it is, from, you know, home sale to BVO to insourcing to outsourcing to, you know, all these different things, and sort of mobility, embracing a duty of care element. So I feel like where there's not a better business unit suited within an organization to adapt to this change than this group and the mobility set of professionals within the HR ecosystem. The closing thought though I'd leave, and it was something that my daughter, who's 21, darn it, they do know everything, said to me. And we were talking about remote work and that we all got thrust into remote work happenstance. We all know how it happened, right? I mean, middle March, middle February, whenever it hit you and your organizations. And initially, I think it worked because we all knew each other, you know, so you weren't dealing with new faces coming in and the cultural impact of that. But look, we, you know, other than legends like Nancy and a few others that stay for many, many years, most of the youth do not intend to stay that long. So as there's turnover, if you think in a remote environment, we're able to have this intimate conversation celebrating Nancy because we know each other or we shared an experience physically in one way or another, either at an event or working or a dinner or whatever. But when you begin to add new employees into an organization, when their first interaction with them is on a flat screen, and that may be their only interaction because they've gone permanent remote, you're then not understanding and embracing what the human behavior around culture is. So it's just a really interesting dynamic. Do I think that it'll happen within the next few months? No, I really do believe it's going to be about another 9 months or so before we start to see the change back in the calibration. But you are already starting to read about companies saying we're going to return to work. And it's a risk tolerance coupled with the fact that, you know, I'm blessed. I don't have young children trying to homeschool them and all those things. I cannot imagine what that trade-off must be for somebody that's trying to balance all that. So mobility will be back because you can't keep good people down, just like Nancy will be back on her bike and celebrating her retirement. But it might be a little bit different and we'll have, I think, greater value to the organization. So we shouldn't lose this. As Hamilton says, let's not throw away our shot. So it's a great opportunity for us. Thanks,
Thank you.
Ed.
Thank you.
Yep.
Chris Chalk, please give us your crystal ball look.
Nobody can follow Peggy, so I'm not even going to try. I hope we can return. It's going to be different. The world has definitely changed, but you're going to lose. You run the risk of losing that culture that built. That's such a big part of so many of the companies that we all work for. You can keep it going, but you can't sustain it forever. People have to be near people. So, and we're not going to see that change.
Yeah.
We're going to adapt.
Faye Chadwick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I
future.
feel like the human touch is still needed. And having been retired for 6 years, I miss the people more than I miss anything. That's the hardest thing about retirement. I see, you know, notices for ERC, SRRC, and I realize that that's what I'm missing most about my work life. It's not the day-to-day, it's the people that you miss. And I think eventually companies will have to go back to where they have interaction and socialization because after all, we need each other.
Yeah, thank you. Jewel Taylor, so what do you think of this and what's your view?
Sorry, I had to get you off mute. You know, so our industry is so different, like Darden's. Fewer than 2% of our moves a year are at our corporate headquarters, who are the people who are impacted from work from home. So from a relocation standpoint, certainly, like Nancy said, things slowed down at the height of COVID, but we're relocating people again. We've done we've done more home sales, for instance, this year than we've done in a couple years. So we always need to move people between our restaurants for growth opportunities, promotion opportunities, new hires. And, you know, it is our desire that, you know, once there is a vaccination and everyone is inoculated, business will be back and better than ever. Unfortunately, in the restaurant industry, I'm sure you guys have seen the news, over 85% of restaurants are independently owned, and we know that a lot of those restaurants aren't going to make it, which is sad, but it does create an opportunity for organizations like Red Lobster and Darden to grow and expand, and hopefully we can provide a workplace for all of those employees who are out of work. So I see us coming back from our perspective and continuing to move people. We do about 200 moves a year, so hopefully we'll get back to doing that soon.
Okay, thanks very much for sharing that. Taylor, would you like to add in a projection or a crystal ball?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Ed. You know, I believe with agree with everyone so far. We're in a high touch industry, and whether remote or not remote, the one thing that I think is going to stick is the way we've addressed transactional processes. And so I think that a lot of the workarounds that we developed when we moved into remote workforce will stick, and hopefully it will stick so it allows us to have more of that one-on-one human touch, high touch interaction with relocating employees. It's interesting when you look back and you look at how many homes were shown, how many closings happened, how many virtual surveys were done in the moving side of the house. Those are all efficiencies that will help businesses focus on other areas that we've been needing to focus on for a while, because now they've been widely accepted and we've proven that they can be done. So for me, I think, yep, we'll have mobility, it'll bounce back, and people will crave that human interaction. But I do believe that the sticking thing will be the transactional processes that have been revamped through this process.
So Peggy, what do you think? Will relocation, will ERC, worldwide ERC remain independent? Or do you think there'll be some absorption somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fantastic question to ask. I guess I would answer it from, I think every industry, every company, unless you're sort of Amazon or Walmart, quite frankly, I mean, and some of the really huge, large ones, Coke probably is part of that. Where did Chris go? He disappeared off my screen. There you are.
Yeah, there is.
I think at this time where there is disruption and transition, you have to be open-minded to every opportunity that comes your way, be it in acquisition or be it you acquire or you get acquired. So I think everybody would be foolish to not at least consider it. And I say this a lot when I'm out looking at jobs for me personally or whatever, or advising people that come and talk to me. And I say, you have to get an offer to turn it down. So you know what, my best advice or my best crystal ball would be, I think I would listen to anything that came my way, and personally or professionally. And if I, in an organization environment, because there's such a fluid nature that's out there right now. I don't think it's scary. I think it's opportunistic. So you don't want to end up like Blockbuster Video. You don't want to end up like Circuit City. So open your eyes and just acknowledge there's changes out there. Whatever swim lane you want to be in, you can still decide. But I would surely hate to read an article 6 months from now that somebody ended up with their doors closed because they played ostrich and had their head in the sand. So
right. So we need to reskill somehow. So Diane, what do you think of all that? And what can you tell us about how you are reinventing your services? Because your customers have changed. They have different needs, and they are worried about being clean, getting things clean and safe and trustworthy, correct?
Right. And with regard to, how the future looks, I kind of liken it back to 2008 and 2009 when we all went through the crisis and the housing crisis. There was the recession. And if you recall how extreme mortgages became, your ability to actually get a mortgage was, ridiculous to some extent. And I feel like that pendulum always goes so far one direction when these things happen. And I believe that's what this virus has done. For good reason. People had to be careful. You had to go into your homes. But I also feel that we know a better way to enter society. We know what can be safe. We know certain underlying issues might be a reason you don't go out as frequently as others or what have you. So I just feel like this pendulum has swung to such an extreme, and eventually it will find its middle ground. And I do believe there's always been a place for a blended use of technology for working at home. But I'm very adamant that to build a company culture, you really cannot do that completely remotely. Even if you want to make an argument for bringing people together for monthly meetings or some type of interaction, the reality is you need that interaction in a different way than what this brings. So this is fabulous for what we're doing today. It has a place for all sorts of applications, but to really build a culture of a business and to bring people together to grow in their career opportunities. If you look at the 25 to 35-year-old demographic, to think that they are going to grow their careers remotely and not be noticed or seen by the 10, 15, 20, 30 people they normally worked around, or not benefit from the ability to tap into what they overhear just because they're around people that that's how they've learned. That's how they gain experience, just by being exposed to these situations. I believe the future is going to be a blend. I'm positive of that. And I believe in that lies mobility, continued mobility. You continue to want that transfer of knowledge and experience and talent. And that talent can't always just be projected and effective via electronics and Zooms. So that's my belief. And let's get back together in a year or 2 or 3 and see if we're all right.
Okay, so now I thank you all for cooperating with me on this thing. This has been exciting for me. So Nancy, where is your next motorcycle ride?
We're talking about going to the Keys. So
Nice.
that might be it.
So would that be for Halloween?
Maybe.
I understand it's quite a party there.
Oh, is that when they have Fantasy Fest?
Yeah, craziness. Yeah.
Oh, then maybe I should do it then.
So,
Post those
okay.
pictures to Facebook, Nancy.
I know.
Right.
All right. So we now have something to look forward to, and maybe they'll let people from California come into Key West. Who knows? You know.
Hey, Ed, can I mention something?
Yeah.
Ed?
Yes.
I'd like to add one thing to the conversation. I think when Nancy was asked what her greatest accomplishments were, I think her greatest accomplishment is touching people's lives for 48 years in such a wonderful way.
Good point.
And we all love you, Nancy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sincerely.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Feel free to use the chat. We have this interactive chat. You could send your email around or phone number if you wish. Do it in the next 5 minutes because we have to close this program. So Diane, thank you again for organizing this thing. And
for all of you who joined in, I appreciate it.
Yeah, really cool. Thank you all for being
you.
on this tribute to Nancy Carter.
Nancy, best of luck and good health. Enjoy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.